Hey Fiends, it's the Mad Scientist Anthony Bowman here. Just wanted to pop in real quick. I know this is a long episode, so I'll try to make this short, but I had a couple things I wanted to let you know up top. First of all, this weekend, our buddy Paul Sereno, author of the disturbingly difficult book of Universal Frankenstein Trivia and the disturbingly difficult book of Hammer Frankenstein Trivia, will be at the Lansing, Michigan Frankenfest. I believe that's on Saturday. You can look up info at frankenfest.com. I think he's going to be there signing and selling books, and I think he's got a trivia night thing planned. We're not going to be there, unfortunately, but it looks like beyond Paul, there's just going to be a lot of cool Frankenstein stuff there. So definitely worth checking out if you're anywhere near the area. Also, we have launched our Patreon, and further down in the episode, we'll get into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of what that's going to look like. But it is already live, and you can join now at patreon.com/thefrankencast. We'd love to have you. We're kind of trying to build a community there, and we think it could be a lot of fun. So we hope to see you there. Take it away, Spooky Piano Man.
The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the Mad Scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
your sole companion with a potato for the head, Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
I wondered where you were going to go with this one, but that was the right answer for sure.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this week we're doing the movie just called Frankenstein from 73 or 4.
Yeah, it's a television movie.
Yeah, and I think last week I said it was directed by Dan Curtis, but it was actually just only produced by him, not directed. But Dan Curtis is, well known for, he did like Dark Shadows, and he did a lot of like kind of TV horror during this time period.
Yeah, this kind of feels like a Dark Shadows episode to a degree. I mean, a really long one, like one of their series.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a play on television. Like that used to be a thing where it was like, the CBS Playhouse Hour or whatever, and they would just do like a play with, they would just like put a camera in front of a stage play. And this has a little bit better in terms of sets, but not by much. No. It's pretty straightforward. And I was thinking that I had seen this, and then when I sat down to watch it, like I had not. And I was like, other than, obviously the sort of like low budget quality to it, otherwise I thought the story here was really cool. I actually liked this a lot.
Yeah, there's some changes to the Frankenstein formula, but it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the better.
I think so. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into it.
All right.
We start out and we get like Ingolstadt University, 1856.
Good old Ingolstadt.
And Dr. Frankenstein is like presenting a paper, and you've got like a crowd of like other students and professors and stuff.
Yeah, they're not happy about this paper. They do not like this paper.
Yeah, everyone's like calling him a heretic and everything. Mm-hmm. But then there's like one professor who's kind of like standing up for him, and he's like, I know some of this sounds kind of crazy, but that's how we move science forward, and we should hear him out. Like this paper's winning awards. Like clearly there's something here that we should, consider at least.
Right, our good old Professor Waldman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so he kind of like, you get a little bit of what his paper was, which is that men should no longer have to succumb to death. Mm-hmm. But, we get a lot of stuff where it's like Frankenstein wants to make life like eternal, basically, that people shouldn't die unless, by violence. There shouldn't be like sickness and old age and stuff. And I think this is really one of the first cases where he explains the leap from that to let's build something out of corpses, where he's like, we have to create life first so we can figure out how to restore existing life.
Right.
Which, it's a simple leap, but you've never actually heard him like kind of say that outright.
Right. Not in the past. Now, there is some definite worry going on whenever they start talking about the race must find the strength, but that's a little bit, later when they're talking about breeding with and becoming superhumans. But I mean, it's like, oh no, we're going there. Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get breeding mixed into the Frankenstein monsters, it always feels a little ubermenschy.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially when you mentioned superhumans, you're just going there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, so Waldman is, he's like, I generally agree with what you're doing, but you need to take things slow. You need to earn the support of the people around you so that you can kind of test your theories and things can kind of be examined a little bit more widely.
Right.
If you just rush through on your own, you're going to be kind of left by yourself, and you're not going to get to really explore this in the way that you could if you had the scientific community on board with you.
Right. Well, not only that, they're just going to outright reject everything if you just thrust it upon them, right?
Yeah.
At least that's what he's saying. I do appreciate, though, that they not only quote the book, but they also quote Paradise Lost and did I request thee, my maker, from my clay? And I'm like, oh, whoa, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, we're having we're already going into the Satan monologue, kind of.
Yeah, that quote really kind of it is a perfect sort of encapsulation of like the Frankenstein story in a way. Like the creature wondering why he was created.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it's Frankenstein, and yeah. But yeah. So then we get the title card.
Yeah, and then we see Frankenstein walking home, and like he gets to the house, and there's like a letter from Elizabeth sitting on his table, and he kind of glances at it, but he just like goes straight upstairs. And at first it was like, oh, he just got this letter today, but as we go on a little bit, you realize that letter's been sitting there a while.
Yeah,
and he's just
we're gonna have a discussion about that one.
Yeah.
But hey, there's this really weird guy in a cap, and he's carrying this ball, and he's at the top of the stairs. But as Frankenstein goes up there, he just kind of ducks away. What's up with that? That seems some sketchy behavior.
Yeah, so he like strolls into the lab, and it turns out it's a surprise party.
Hey! It's his two friends, Otto and Hugo, the guys we've known about in all the other stories. Yeah, obviously they're made up for this movie, but yeah, they're there to congratulate him on his winning his award.
Yeah, and he's kind of like thankful for the celebration, but he's like, really, we should wait on celebrating until after we succeed with our experiments. The paper's one thing, but what we really need is to accomplish our task, and then we can really celebrate.
Yeah, but it turns out that Hugo and Otto, they're kind of apprehensive about going through with just reanimating this body. It's like they find it blasphemous or something. Maybe it's not natural. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, the time to back out was before we stole all those corpses. At this point, all we got to do is just, there's a storm coming. We just plug the creature in, and we're good to go.
Right.
Like,
by the way, that's the best. That's the best part. It's like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. And he's like, guys, we've already robbed like a number of graves. If you had problems with this, you should have mentioned it. I don't know, when we were digging up the first person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they realize that like the storm is coming. It's going to hit in the morning, but they have the whole body ready, except they still need a heart. So they're like, we got to go out and get a heart. And so Otto and Hugo go out to rob one last grave.
One more job. Damn it. It's every time.
Yeah. And so there's like a groundskeeper or something who hears them and just starts like firing at them. And in their attempts to escape, Hugo is hit.
Oh.
So they end up, he does manage to get back to the house. Hugo, Otto kind of like helps him or whatever.
But they all know what's going on.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of funny. Like Frankenstein is like, he kind of completely switches gears, and he's like, all right, we got to save Hugo. We got to do whatever we can. We got to use our current scientific knowledge. We got to call our friends. We're in this medical community. Surely we can save him. And finally Hugo's just like, dude, I am gonna die.
Right.
But I have this heart that is not damaged, and you can finally like accomplish your goal. So it's kind of interesting. Like, usually Frankenstein is really portrayed as like totally single-minded, but in this case, he like actually cares about his friend, and it's his friend who's like, no, this is your chance.
Yeah. So go ahead, take my heart, reanimate the creature with it. That way I'll live on forever, right?
Yeah. So as soon as he dies, of course, then Frankenstein's like, all right, yeah, let's get to it. And he kind of starts doing the work, but is interrupted again, this time by a carriage pulling up outside containing his father, Elizabeth, and Henry Clerval.
Right. And also, this movie seems to make a change to Liz. Whereas she kind of was a adopted Frankenstein, she's actually apparently Henry's sister in this one, because she's credited as Elizabeth Clerval.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, did you know? Yeah.
It kind of makes sense that it would be, now that you say it. Like, it would be a way to kind of streamline the story and not get into all the weird adoption plot and all of that.
And yeah, and also the closeness of Henry later on and her is less creepy and less, well, it goes back to the original, like, Universal Frankenstein, where what was it, Victor Moritz was kind of like bird dogging Henry Frankenstein's quail, as it were.
Yeah, so this trio shows up, and obviously Victor's not super excited about this. He wasn't expecting them. He's in the middle of his experiment. This is like the moment to do this.
Well, Dad Alphonse even looks at him and is like, hey, why are you look like you've been sleeping in your work clothes. What's going on?
Yeah, and he's like, no, I was working. I'm in the middle of something. And he's like, all right, cool. Let's see it. Show us your work. And he's like, no, yeah,
right.
It's not ready. I can't let you see that. So like, yeah, they're just, and it's, it's one of those things where like, this is generally just like his family who cares about him and wants to make sure he's okay and spend some time with him. Like, they're not like, nosy intruders or anything, but in his mind, they definitely are, because he's, got his, his goals and his things he's needing to accomplish.
Yeah. And he ain't got no time for family or friends while he's trying to get things done, right?
Yeah. And so he ends up going back upstairs, and that's when Elizabeth sees the letter on the table and is like, oh, yeah, I sent this a while ago and told him we were coming. No wonder he was so surprised to see us. Yeah. It's just been sitting there.
Yeah. And immediately she's like, hey, I wonder if he still even cares. And, yeah. So, that'll become a plot point later.
Yeah. But then, so upstairs, Victor and Otto are talking. They're discussing the experiment. They're discussing Hugo's death.
Right. And of course, Otto has a bad feeling about this, and we know what happens to the guy who has a bad feeling about things.
Yeah.
But they're going to cover Hugo's body and say, hey, whenever we dispose of it, he fell in the mountains and he was lost, right?
Yeah.
That's our cover story.
Yeah. So then they get down to the experiment, and it's the revival scene. We know, it's lightning and sparks and all kinds of spinning stuff. Did you notice, like, I feel like this is the kind of thing that you would notice more than me, but like there's a shot of like a bunch of sparks, and it's just like a wall of sort of like science gear, and it's like a maybe 3-second shot, and they just keep using that exact same shot over and over and over again.
Yep.
Even late, like they use it probably like 5 or 6 times in this scene, and then they're going to use it again near the end of the movie a couple of times.
My God, they only had so much to spend on that Transformer explosion, and they were going to milk it for all it was worth, and they do. But not only that. So while they're prepping, like, I couldn't catch what Victor was saying. He was like, "Hey, we got to make sure the electricity never goes beyond 5." And I'm like, what was that? 5 what? Megawatts? What? Like, what was that last bit? And he just like mumbles that line out, the last bit of it. And I'm like, did he just forget what he was going to say and they just took the take? They just kept
Probably.
it? Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. But yeah, the Sparky Transformer. I definitely was like, okay, we're just repeating this thing. This is the column collapsing on the monster in the fiery house all over again.
And it's the kind of thing, like, I might not have noticed it, except the way the sparks, it's like it sparks up at the top of the screen, and then there's this kind of like thing that kind of like falls down. That's like, it's almost like a firework falling down, and because it's this very specific motion happening over and over and over again, it becomes very clear.
Yeah. And every time it catches fire, it's like, okay. But unfortunately, the monster doesn't wake up after this.
Yeah, and it's like, Victor and Otto they're disappointed, and like instantly, Victor's like, okay, we can't fall into this pattern of trying this over and over again. Like, we got to be done. Let's destroy the lab. We'll burn the notes. We'll burn the body. We're just going to get rid of everything and just go on about our lives like this never happened. And then they kind of leave the room to kind of discuss what they're going to do. And while they're out of the room, the creature finally wakes up.
Well, there's one more little bit of jolt of electricity that was just kind of stuck in that transformer, right? And that's what pushed him over the edge.
Yeah. So they kind of walk back in the room then, and they see that the creature's kind of moving and twitching a little bit, or Victor does, and then he calls Otto back in, and so they kind of unstrap the creature, kind of set him up as he's starting to wake.
By the way, I like as they're getting the monster up, the actor Bo Svensson, like, he smirks as they're getting. I'm like, come on, man. But all right, whatever.
And it was funny that it was Bo Svensson, because like just like this past weekend, if you're listening to this as we air it, the last drive-in did Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, and Bo Svensson is in that as like this like evil homophobic cop, and he's just like the worst. Like, you just hate him so much.
Right.
And then him as the creature, he's just so pure and innocent. Like, he's wild how different the two characters are.
Lovable monster I think we've dealt with.
I think so. Yeah.
I just want to hug him. He's so.
Yeah, so like as they kind of sit him up, like they kind of realize that he's basically a giant baby. That they mention, we know that he's got Hugo's heart, but they also mention that the brain came from a professor that they knew. But it doesn't look like he's instantly just having all of the professor's memories. So they're like, we're gonna have to teach him to walk. We're gonna have to teach him to respond to, they're doing all those sort of like tests on reflexes and stuff like that. And
make sure
like,
his eyes can focus on the finger as they move it forward and backwards.
Yeah. So he's, just a giant baby. And so, but he seems to be kind of learning quickly. They get him to stand up, and they kind of like mimic walking, and he follows along and learns to walk. And, immediately Otto is like, we got to get Professor Waldman in here. Like, he needs to see this. This is amazing. Yeah. And Victor's like, no, we gotta teach him first so that he's impressive. Right now we just have this weird giant baby, but if we have created a man who is like a fully functioning human that we built, that's more impressive. So let's just give it a little more time.
Well, not only going back to what you said about the brain, that's Dr. Leekman's brain, right? So Dr. Leekman, he was an astronomer, I think. So let's grab his telescope and let's see if he knows how to use it. And yes, what does the monster do when he gets handed this really flimsy telescope? Well, he crushes it. They're like, well, okay, we're going to have to work on that.
And that's really a good sort of like tease for the way things are going to go in this movie with this monster. And so we end up, I think after that, Victor is like, well, I need to sort of appease my family and get them off my back so we can kind of continue with our work here. So Otto, you keep an eye on the creature. I'm going to go, I'll meet them at the hotel so that they don't come to the lab. And, I'll take them out to dinner and
go to the opera.
So he leaves, and Otto kind of continues to train, and it's like the creature picks things up very quickly. It's like, Otto will show him something, and then he'll be able to do it right away. And they kind of go through this kind of part. You kind of cut back and forth, and you get Otto training, Victor talking to the family. He has a conversation with Elizabeth about dinner, and that his experiment's almost complete, and soon they'll be married and everything. Yeah. And then we go back to the lab where Otto is kind of trying to teach some words to the creature, and he mainly just, I think, Otto. He is able to kind of say Otto.
Well, more like Atta.
Yeah.
But he's getting there.
Yeah, he's making quick progress. I guess, there's some kind of muscle memory or something there. Like it's, when you have a baby, they don't have any sort of context. But like, yeah, this is more like somebody who's been in like a horrible accident or something and is relearning it almost.
Yeah. And, well, hey, we got this fancy ball here. It'd be a shame if we didn't at least try to teach the monster how to play ball.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And that's actually one of the nicest scenes I think we've seen, is someone actually just having fun with the monster for a little bit. But, of course, since the monster has the brain of a child, more or less, at this point, when Otto's like, all right, I gotta get back to work, so you just gotta sit over there and do your thing. Well, the monster's like, play. Let's play some more.
Yeah.
Of course,
yeah, and he ends up strangling Otto in the process of I think that's the thing that I really, really connected to in this movie is like in the past we've had a lot of instances where, you've got either a violent assistant who's just cruel to the creature right out of the gate. We don't have that here. We've got Otto who's genuinely trying to teach him and, be good to him. And we also have like the creature being like violent without any really provocation.
Right.
And here it's more like a mistake, like it's like a child kind of throwing a tantrum, but when a child is bigger than you are, then like
and
that
stronger.
Poses a risk. Yeah.
It just literally hugs him to death.
Yeah. Then, Victor comes home and finds that Otto is dead and that the creature is like sitting next to him, still trying to get him to play. Like he doesn't understand death. He's got the ball and he's like, play, Otto, and Otto's just, dead on the floor. And here we get Victor. He like gets out a pistol and like he, is like, I have to kill this creature. He's dangerous.
Yeah, we have some serious George and Lenny vibes.
I wrote of Mice and Men too.
Right.
Like, yeah. He takes the creature over to the window and he's like, look out the window,
right.
Look at the light.
Don't look at me while I'm getting ready to shoot you, please.
Yeah. And it feels like in this moment, like if he had killed the creature, there would be sort of a decent reason, but at the same time, he can't bring himself to do it. He's like, I made this creature and like, I need to make things right. Like he doesn't know what he did. He doesn't deserve to be punished for this. What he needs and deserves is, to be cared for and educated and, allowed to learn and grow.
Right. And even to a point though, he's kind of indulging in the sunk cost fallacy in that this creature effectively cost me a lot of time and a couple friends.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah. But, again, like we run into this a lot in these movies where like as soon as the creature comes to life, Victor immediately just regrets it and just like hates the creature for being ugly or for being, not perfect.
Right.
And here we really have like a doctor who actually is like, no, I'm going to work with this creature. I'm going to make this right. And, he doesn't just immediately give up on his goals, which seems more like what would actually happen than what we usually see in these movies.
I definitely agree with that. I do like that fact that he's like, no, I'm going to work with you, but that also makes it more of a tragedy in the end. And that's the best part of this movie is that Victor Frankenstein and the monster, they're trying to come to terms, but they just can't get there.
Yeah. Whereas, so in fact, like then it's like Victor is like he straps the creature down to the table so that he's like safe and secured because he knows he has to figure out what to do with Otto. Like they were already discussing what to do with Hugo, and now we've got another corpse. So he ends up doing this whole like elaborate scheme where he wraps up the body, he takes the corpse to Otto's apartment.
Well, of course, as he's leaving, the monster's like, "Hey, come back here."
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, and it's more tragedy where it's like he can't. It's like when you leave your pet, and you have to be like, "I'll be home soon, be good," and like the pet doesn't know, and that's what's going on here. The creature's just like, "Don't abandon me, like I need you," and
also the pet is 600 pounds and about 8 feet tall.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so Victor gets Otto's body to his apartment. He gets seen by a couple people in the hallway carrying this long wrapped up thing.
Yeah, nobody asked
and I was
any
like,
questions.
yeah, I thought that was going to come back to bite him, but it doesn't. Like, nobody ever mentions anything. Mm-hmm. And he just like pushes Otto's body out the window
And
so that he'll...
And he possessions the telescope right beside it. By the open window. It's like, yes, he was staring out the window, and or he was staring at the stars and fell out the window, which that's literally what he goes with.
Yeah, and somehow that actually works, and nobody pursues that at all. Right. And so, yeah, then when he gets... So, Victor goes back to the lab and finds that while he's been gone, the creature, not knowing what's going on, manages to break out of the straps and, wander out into the streets looking for him. And meanwhile, Victor's family arrives back at his house, and they're, wanting to visit and stuff. And he's, like, trying to get them to go away. And he's like, actually, not only are we not going away, but we have sublet
right.
a villa down the road, and we're going to be staying 4 months.
Yeah, I met an old friend, Alphonse says, and we're just going to stay here until you decide to come home with us. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and you can see Victor just being like, fuck.
Right. That was, by the way, the actor who played Frankenstein in this is Robert Foxworth. By the way, he's in a lot of other movies if you want to check out his filmography. But man, he has the greatest fuck me face. Like, son of a bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Alphonse is like, what's your deal? Like, you didn't open Elizabeth's letter, you weren't expecting us, you've been really aloof since we've been here and avoiding us. And Victor's like, my friend just died.
Yeah.
Like
Otto Roger.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Sorry.
Yeah, that's when he just blurts out. Yeah, he was staring out the window and just with his telescope and just fell out. Okay.
Yeah.
Dad doesn't say, that's weird. Okay, sure.
And so then, Victor finds out that Elizabeth's outside kind of wandering around, and he's like, the creature's out there somewhere.
Oh, you forgot the good news. The even better news. The stuff that Victor's really happy about. That we've sent for young William and his governess, which I don't think we ever see the governess. But
yeah.
But William's coming. Your younger brother.
Of course.
Yeah. Let's bring
because we need more people in this mix.
Yeah. Let's bring the entire family here. That way we can basically emotionally blackmail you into going home.
Yeah. But yeah, so Victor, goes out and finds Elizabeth, and, she's fine. And he, brings her back inside. Meanwhile, the creature has kind of wandered way out into the woods, and he just finds, like, a campfire that no one is around. Like, somebody just left a campfire burning and wandered off. Yeah. Which works out for him because he's able to warm up. But, here we kind of get, like, a variation of, like, the fire bad thing where, like, he's, enjoying the warmth of the fire and tries to, like, touch a hot stone and burns himself and kind of discovers what pain is for the first time. And then we kind of just cut to him, like, huddled underneath, like, an overhang as it's, like, raining. And, like, he goes to sleep and wakes up and, is just... He's just, like, away from civilization at this point, which is probably, at this moment, the best thing for him if he can't, be under, Victor's roof.
Right. And, of course, the birds are chirping, the sun's shining. This is nothing but blue skies for our monster friend from now on, right?
Yeah. And so he actually comes upon a singing bird that's, like, sitting in a nest.
Like a live bird, by the way.
Yeah.
Just plucks it out and starts poking it in the head a couple times.
Yeah, he's like kind of I think he's trying to pet it, but it's a little bit aggressive. Right. And suddenly the bird is silent because he's killed the bird.
Now, of course, I don't think they actually killed the bird, but hopefully, jeez, that would have been miserable. But
but he this time he realizes what's happened, and he says Atta, like he realizes what I did to Otto, I've done to this bird now.
Yeah, I've ended its life effectively.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the next day we have William playing with his ball and Victor.
Yeah, and it's like this kind of like scene kind of cut up in a way where I was like a little confused. It's like, Victor's playing with William, and he's like, go on out and play with the others, and then we just cut to like 3 boys playing catch, and I think William's one of them, but it's kind of it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, the ball kind of like gets away from them, you know, as it happens, and it kind of rolls up to the creature, and he picks it up and is like, play. And, you know, of course, the kids see this giant monster and, you know, get scared and run away.
Yeah. Because he's a big guy.
Yeah. Yeah, very intimidating. But, like, it's unfortunate because, like, assuming that William is one of these kids, if he had told Victor what happened, things might have played out differently from here.
Right.
But unfortunately, that doesn't happen.
No.
And we get Henry and Elizabeth talking, and Elizabeth's like, Henry, you know, you need to talk to Victor. Like, you could be the one who can, like, get this straightened out and, like, find out what's going on and you know, convince him to, you know, come back into the fold, basically.
Yeah. And this is where Henry basically says, I can't refuse anything you ask of me, Elizabeth, so I'll do that.
Yeah. So here, you know, again, with, like, the possibility that that they're siblings, like, you know, he's caring for his sister, or he's, like, caring for this dear friend that he maybe has, you know, stronger feelings for. But either way, he's eager to help her out. So then we cut away to the creature again, who's, you know, continuing to just kind of, like, wander. He sees some men who are, like, huddled under, like, a sort of little lean-to.
Yep.
And, you know, they see a giant man and sort of, like, attack him. They're just
I
like,
love that that's their first reaction, with instead of, hey man, what are you doing over there? No, it's, hey, let's grab our stick and swing it at this random dude.
Yeah.
Who's clearly much more imposing than we are.
Yeah. And he kind of, you know, he fights back as you would.
Yeah, and he disarms a guy. Like, no, he literally rips a guy's arm off.
Yeah. And, you know, then, like, just kind of keeps moving. Like, he just kind of wanders away from them.
Yep.
And ends up finding a small farmhouse, you know, and this is the farmhouse that we get in, you know, Bride of Frankenstein, and, you know, within the book and everything. Like, we've definitely been here before, but in this case, it's kind of a reverse, because it's
not a blind old man. No, it's a blind young pretty lady.
Yeah, you got a blind girl, and like, we can tell she's blind right away, but, you know, I don't think the creature kind of clocks that immediately.
Yeah. She's staring off
he's
in
definitely
the middle distance.
Yeah, he's definitely curious about her, but then, like, an old man starts to approach, and he sort of, you know, is wary of, you know, strangers, and so the creature goes and sort of hides. It's sort of the pig pen kind of, or pigs, but in this case, it looks more like a cellar, but it's kind of like next to the house.
Yeah, it's like a shed that's attached to the house that no one really knows about, but also the slots are big enough that everyone can see back and forth. But I don't know. I'm surprised they haven't the other people in the house don't notice him when they enter.
Yeah. So we find out that the girl's name is Agatha, and her brother Felix, I think. Yeah, yes, Felix is about to arrive with his fiance, and so, like, the whole family is sort of planning for this upcoming wedding.
Right. Now, they really don't tell you her name from what I gather at this moment. It will come later, but I think that her name is Sassy?
Yeah, I thought or like Safi with an F.
It could be.
But it's something like that. And you know,
Safi,
you do sort of have this character in the book as well. In the book, I feel like she's meant to be sort of like either like Middle Eastern or like Asian in some way. Like,
right.
You know, they talk about her speaking like a foreign language and stuff. Like, I think she might be like, you know, with this being sort of England and stuff, I kind of thought maybe like India, but in this case, she's Spanish. Spanish or Mexican. Like, she's speaking Spanish, and so like over the course of this, you know, you'll get where, like, you know, Agatha kind of is trying to teach her more English, and which allows the creature to kind of try to learn English through the wall, which, you know, is similar to what we see in the book. And, you know, I think at the time this came out, this was sort of like everyone was kind of praising it for being like the most faithful to the book adaptation up to that point. And it, you know, it does, you know, like, obviously stuff like this is very much like the book, but, you know, we lose the whole like Arctic wraparound scenes and stuff. But like, I feel like where this diverts from the book, I kind of really like more what it's doing than the book.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a little blasphemous, but you know, yeah, I don't know. Emotionally, it's a lot more resonant for me.
I'll have to say that.
And here, while the creature's in his shed, is where we meet his only friend, the potato stick man that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And, we got Frankenstein, he's talking, or the creature talking to his stick doll. And then we see that Victor and Elizabeth are also planning their wedding. So we kind of have like two sort of wedding planning, instances happening simultaneously in different parts of the area.
But this is also where the monster learns that because Agatha wants to be Safi's friend, he learns, hey, maybe I need a friend. And yeah, of course, that's where he picks up the potato-headed stick guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So while Victor and Elizabeth are talking about their wedding, Henry shows up and he's like, I was just down at the pub and I heard a story about a giant who attacked a bunch of shepherds up on the mountain. And like instantly, like Victor goes from like done with his past and ready to move forward with the wedding to completely flipping back to the old ways. And he's just like, he's angry at Henry. Like, why didn't you tell me this sooner? Why did nobody come to me? And, everybody's like, why would we have come to you with this weird...
We just learned about this, man.
Yeah. And nobody has any reason to think you'd be interested in a story about a giant attacking some shepherds. That has nothing to do with what we know about your life, as because he's kept this part of him, his whole story secret, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's instantly like, he heads out of the house. He's like, I got to find out more. I've got to try to track the creature down.
Yeah. And that's where we go back to the fiance, Safi, learning that her mom's going to be coming now. And her and Felix can finally be married.
Yeah. So, like, the family all leaves to, I guess, go get Safi's family, go pick them up or whatever. And the creature takes this opportunity. The house is empty, and he's been watching it through the walls this whole time. But, like, he decides he, goes over into the main house and, kind of just walks around and looks at, like, this world of this happy family that he's experienced from the outside. And now
he's literally the most adorable scene of any monster we've ever seen, because he's practicing talking to the family that's not there.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking how sweet he is.
Yeah.
And he even he says something like, thank you, I'm too nervous to sit. Is nervous the right word? I'm not used to being around people. And it's just like, oh man, I definitely was tearing up watching this, because it was just, yeah, if you're the kind of person who is drawn to these movies for the reasons that I am, feeling this kinship with the monster in a lot of ways, this is me practicing conversations before I'm around people, because I don't know how to talk to people, and I'm nervous all the time, and it's just yes,
that's the neurodivergent thing, right?
Yeah.
All right, before I have this interaction, let me try to figure out every way this can go wrong.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that I've always done, and finding out that it's an autistic trait to practice conversations over and over again before you're around a person. And it's here he is doing this, and it definitely hit close to home for me.
Well, of course, it doesn't end exactly well, because the monster sees his own image, and he realizes that's him. Well, he sees his hand first. So he's like, oh, there's somebody else here with me. Okay, who are you? How are you doing? And he's like, no, that's my hand. Okay. So he looks at it and realizes, oh no, I'm ugly. So he figures out that he's, repulsive to himself. So he does what anyone would do and breaks that damn mirror.
Yeah, and also, we talked about this with the Mary Shelley Frankenstein, that we saw the stitches kind of disappear as the movie went on, and I feel like this kind of happens too. He has a lot of stitches right across the bridge of his nose. The character design here is, it's a large man covered in stitches, but they're kind of placed differently than you're used to seeing, and over time you see the stitches go away and the scars kind of remain. Yeah. But obviously he sees why people maybe have been unkind to him this whole time, that he sees that he is kind of he's a frightening figure.
Yeah.
And then we end up, from after he breaks the mirror, we cut back to Victor and Henry talking, and Henry's like, what, something, you're hiding something, clearly you have another life that we don't know about. Now, and Henry
says something really weird here. It's happening again. what does he know about?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's like...
I feel like there's maybe there was a part cut out at the beginning where Frankenstein was like dissecting animals and then trying to bring them back. Maybe it slightly worked, but it's like weird that Henry knows stuff he shouldn't know.
Yeah.
At certain points.
And he ultimately is like, if you let me in on what's going on, I can help. And Victor goes through this whole like convoluted thing where he's like, let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
A totally fictional story about a man with a violent brother, and the man's trying to help the brother, but he doesn't know where he is, and he goes this whole thing, and Henry's like, what are you talking about?
Well, he mentions that the brother also has the mind of a child, so basically he's like, I'm writing a story, so he was preparing to write Of Mice and Men before.
He's like, I'm writing a book.
Yeah.
And Henry's like, you're writing a book? Like, that doesn't sound like you at all.
I'm going to set it in America within about 50 to 60 years from now.
It's speculative fiction about the far future of Dust Bowl America.
What's the Dust Bowl? Something that'll happen, maybe. I don't know. All right, anyway. Yeah.
So then we end up back at the house, and the creature has moved back into the shed. The family has all returned, and he gets to watch the wedding through the wall. And he sees everybody celebrating and dancing, and there's music, and he kind of like, he's talking to himself, and he's considering like, maybe I should go over there. Like, maybe I should try to make friends. I'm still nervous, but there's all these people here. Like, maybe this crowd is a safe place where I can kind of like make my way in and sort of meet people in this sort of celebratory state.
He's definitely enjoying the vibe, and he wants to be part of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. All right, so prepare for some ableist bullshit, because this is one beef I had with this movie, was that Agatha then wants to dance with her brother Felix, right? And that's fine, okay, she's blind, we have to be more careful. Well, somehow she trips or falls or stumbles, and then the energy just goes out of the room. And, it's like, oh, are you okay, Agatha? Are you okay? But, obviously she tripped, she fell, she's a little embarrassed. She goes outside, and this is some grade A bullshit in that she talks to her dad, and she's like, yeah, I know I'm never going to be able to, to dance or have friends or get married or live a long and fulfilling life because I'm blind.
Yeah.
What? Get out of here. She can dance just fine as long as they take it slow and just watch out.
Yeah.
And she can have friends, and she can get married. Bah! Poppycock.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, like, at least all of that came from her and not from someone else telling her that was the way things are. Because I understand that sometimes if you are afflicted with something, you might, you have those dark moments where you're just like, I wish my life was like the normal people. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, you don't, you want her to have that fulfilling life, and you don't want her to tell the world that that's all that blind people can expect.
Yeah. Because it's not. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. In the 1800s, it ain't easy for sure.
Yeah.
But, things can still happen. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But so the we do get where like the creature overhears this, and he's like, oh, she's different like I am, and she can't see, so she wouldn't be able to see that I'm ugly to the normal eye, and also she thinks that she's not able to make friends, and I feel the same way. So maybe
I'm gonna shoot my shot.
Maybe this is the opportunity where like our problems can maybe join. Sometimes that's like a really special thing when you have people who have like different strengths and weaknesses, and you can kind of come together, and I'll help you with your thing and you help me with my thing. And so this seems like the perfect opportunity, and it actually starts to kind of work. Like the next day everybody else is gone.
By the way, Agatha starts off the scene dancing. which just irritated me even more.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, because she's no
herself,
one's there.
Yeah.
She can dance and not feel like people are judging the way she's moving or whatever.
Right.
So
maybe that was the intention, but I read it wrong. It's possible.
But the creature sees this opportunity, so he knocks on the door, and she's like, "Who's there?" And he says, "A friend you do not yet know."
Right.
So, she lets him in, and, he kind of tells her that he's like a lost traveler, and that, he just kind of needs a place to stay for the night, and that maybe he can help her around the house.
Yeah, and she's like, all right, grab that bucket full of water and bring it over here. And he picks it up and just puts it on this little latch, and she's like, wait a second. I didn't tell you where to put it. How did you know?
And he's like, it just seemed like the right place. Yeah. I haven't been watching you for months.
Right. Jeez, I don't know everything about the family.
Yeah, and, so she kind of talks to, she tells about her life experience as a blind woman. Mm-hmm. And he's like, sometimes I wish that the whole world was blind so that we could all be equal, and there wouldn't be any judgment. So he's kind of trying to make her feel better about her situation, but also to be like, you actually are a more open and judgment-free person because of this, and that maybe other people could benefit from looking at the world the way you do.
Yeah, but of course, as all things do, we get something that scares the monster, in this case being some thunder and lightning. And I do like what he says, because normally, like, some people think, hey, lightning is a wondrous, beautiful, natural phenomenon, but for him, it's bright, scary, and ugly. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting take. Also, maybe kind of speaking to his inner darkness, in that he's afraid of the light. I may be reading too much into that, but or it's just big, scary, and if it hits you, it'll kill you.
It's interesting because lightning is something that is often wrapped up in the Frankenstein story, because it's what gives him life. So. Like, you'll often hear people say that, like, that lightning was the creature's mother, in a way. And so it's interesting that he's afraid of it. He's not drawn to it. I think it's in, like, Son of Frankenstein or Ghost of Frankenstein, where, like, he wants to continue to be struck by lightning. That's how he kind of gets recharged. And in this case, he's, like, repelled by it. Mm-hmm. But, like, as they're kind of talking about that, she wants to see him, as you get this scene a lot with blind characters, or, blind people in real life as well. Like, she wants to touch his face to kind of, like, understand who he is.
Yeah, he's not ready for that.
No, yeah. So he kind of flinches away, and, she kind of takes that in stride. She doesn't, like, push or anything.
But she's a little pushy in this case. Because she's like, no, I'm going to see you. I'm going to touch all over your face. Come here.
And they have a conversation about, like, what happiness is. Mm-hmm. And, he's never felt happiness. He's never experienced it. And she's like, well, maybe when my family gets home, I can talk to them, and you can stay with us and be sort of a part of the family. You can help us around the farm. Like, you're clearly capable. And, obviously he's nervous because, like, he's got this safety net of her being blind that the rest of the family obviously is not. Right. But, he kind of is like, well, I trust you, and if you think it'll work, like, let's, maybe we can try this. But then that's when, she touches his hands.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, you're hurt.
Yeah. And that's where he admits, like, I'm ugly. Like, men hate me because I am wretched.
Yeah. And she's like, poppycock, let me touch that big old face of yours.
Yeah, so, again, it kind of is a reversal where, like, she's kind of talking down about her blindness, and he's like, no, that's not a weakness, that's who you are, and, you are using it for the better, and, she kind of flips that where now he's uncomfortable with his difference, and she's like, no, that's who you are, and it's okay. Yeah. But at that moment, her family arrives.
Yep.
Yeah, and they see them, like...
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like, they're close, and she's got his, they're like holding each other's wrists and stuff, and it looks like something violent may be happening, and so
or at
instantly
least something sketchy, right?
Yeah, so instantly the family sort of like tries to protect her. They attack the creature.
Yeah, Felix grabs a double-headed axe and goes for the monster or the creature.
Yeah, but like it actually, it's the best way that this could happen. Like the creature kind of backs off.
Yeah.
They grab Agatha and leave. Like they're not going to try to kill him. They're not going to fight. Like they're going to just get away from this danger.
Well, that's after the monster slams Felix up against the wall. It's like,
yeah.
You're going to take a seat, buddy.
So they leave, and the family they go to the nearest doctor, who is Victor Frankenstein.
And the monster decides, he's pissed, so he tears up the house.
Yeah,
he tears this massive frying pan down and starts beating everything in his vicinity.
Yeah, so, in some versions of this, like, he, like, burns the house down. But in this case, he just, like, he's hurt and, like, sad that he's lost this opportunity, and he's smashing some stuff. Yeah. Which, is definitely understandable.
A little cathartic.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, across town, we get the whole family showing up at Victor's house.
Right. Hey, Dr. Frankenstein, we have something for you. It's this guy.
And yeah, Felix is just like, this guy threw me up against a wall. I just want to check out, make sure I'm okay.
He's a giant and a madman.
And Victor's immediately like,
Okay.
you're good, you're fine, you'll be cool,
Right.
but I gotta go.
Yeah, where did you say he was? I need to know right now. All right, cool.
So yeah, he takes off into the woods and is, looking for the creature. And this part kind of like, I kind of had to catch up with what happened later because it's like Victor hears a noise and he just like, just shoots
at the camera.
Yeah. And then we like cut back to like the villa where Victor's family is all staying. And like Elizabeth is like tucking William into bed. And he's like, I hate it here. I want to go back home to Geneva. And she's like, yeah, I do too. What we need to do is basically, if we gang up on Victor, we'll take turns every other day.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get him tonight, I'll get him tomorrow. We'll just kind of go back and forth, and eventually we'll guilt him into going home.
Gosh. But of course, she sets the ball down beside William. And I'm just going to say this right now. If you see that ball, somebody who's near that ball is going to die.
Yeah.
That's basically Chekhov's ball.
So as soon as, she tucks him in, he's going to go to bed, she leaves, and instantly he's like, all right, I'm going to sneak out and play with this ball.
I'm going to bust out my nice little shoes, and we're going to go play ball in the middle of the night by myself.
And of course, as you would expect, the creature stumbles upon him. Mm-hmm. And we have this scene again that's like, it sort of goes okay at first, where like William's not afraid of the creature and he sees that the creature is injured. And at first I thought it was just like the scars, but no, the creature is bleeding because
he was shot by Frankenstein.
Shot.
Yeah. That we didn't know, or we didn't see him go, ow, I got shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, William's like, it's okay. I'm used to the sight of blood. My brother is a doctor. Yeah. We can help you.
Yeah, he's Victor Frankenstein. You might know him.
But the creature doesn't know him because here it's kind of like you don't really remember your first year or two of life. You don't remember being a baby, and the creature doesn't remember the stuff that happened at the house. Like he doesn't remember Otto or Victor or anything at this point. Yeah. But William's like, let me get my sister or we'll get Elizabeth, she'll help. And he just starts yelling, Elizabeth.
Now I'm putting all this on Will. This is Will's fault that everything happens from this point on, because he's like, no, do not call Liz or Elizabeth.
Yeah,
do not.
Yeah, and the creature's calm. He's like, no, I don't want that. Like, let's just be quiet.
Just chill.
And William won't listen, and the creature tries to quiet him down, and it goes similar to the situation with the bird. Like he tries to so he ends up
the monster is successful in quieting William.
Yeah. And so again, like we have like the monster has caused a couple of deaths at this point, I guess 3 counting the bird. Or no, I guess the fishermen were okay, they just were injured.
Yeah, one lost an arm.
Like but every time it's either been somebody has directly attacked him, or it's been like a case of like, I don't know my own strength, and I'm just like, the telescope, he crushes the telescope, he crushes the bird, he crushes William. Like, it's just, he doesn't mean to, it just,
Otto,
so he starts crying, like he knows what's happened, like he realizes what he's done, and it's not what he wanted to happen, so he is upset by this. Meanwhile, then we get Elizabeth and Henry discussing Victor further. They're still not really sure what's going on with him, but then Victor shows up and Henry's like, all right, I'll leave you all to it. I know you got some stuff to talk about. I'm just gonna see my way out. And Victor and Elizabeth decide to like go for a walk and discuss his erratic behavior and like, going from wanting to do the wedding to rushing out and all that. So, But before they can get too far into this conversation, they find William. And he's in a fountain, so I'm not really sure if the creature was trying to cover his tracks, or I don't really know how he ended up in the fountain.
Right, but they automatically assume, hey, somehow he got out here and drowned.
Yeah, but pretty quickly, like they get him inside, and Victor's like, oh no, his neck is broken. Yeah. Like he didn't drown.
Yeah, and of course, Dad's there, so he has to explain. Yeah, somebody killed my brother, your son, and they broke his neck.
Yeah, and he kind of like he implies that he knows who it was, but that he's not going to tell them, which is a strange thing to acknowledge at this point.
Yeah, that's like, hey, I got a hit out on me, but don't worry about it. They're going for every member of my family, but you guys are fine.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we cut away to a cave where the creature is, and he's trying to kind of deal with what he's done. He's like sort of monologuing.
He's begging for
and he's just like,
forgiveness.
yeah. It's almost like a prayer in a way.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I didn't mean to hurt the boy. I didn't hate him. The other one, I hate him. The one that shot me and made me bleed. I don't know who he is, but if I find him, I'll kill him. Mm-hmm. So this is the first instance where he's like, he is ready to commit violence on purpose because there's somebody out there who seems to want the same for him.
Yeah. It's because of this man that some bad things have happened to me.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, Victor ends up going back out and looking for the creature.
And he brings Henry with him.
Yeah. And so finally, Henry and Victor are talking, and, Henry's like, so who did this, right? And Victor kind of he's wishy-washy about it, but he sort of acknowledges that he has an idea of what's happening. Mm-hmm. Then they end up sort of in this crypt area.
Yeah, it's like an old abandoned church, and Victor finds his way into the undercroft of the old church.
Yeah, and the creature just happens to be there as well. And so that scene where Victor shot him, we didn't really get to see the creature's side of it, but he seems to have seen Victor in that moment, because he's like, who are you? Why do you hunt me?
Right.
And he's like, I'm Victor Frankenstein. Tonight you killed my brother. Why did you do this? I don't understand. And this is kind of like the ice cave scene in a way, but it's different, because it's, whereas, in that you had Victor just abandoning the creature for no reason. Here it's almost like just crossed wires, missed connections over and over again. And the creature's like, I'm sorry, I did not want to hurt him. Why did you shoot me? Why are we hurting each other accidentally over and over again?
Right. And at this point, Frankenstein and the monster or Frankenstein's like, listen, I'm going to patch up your wound, and we're going to sort this out. You didn't mean to do the things. We'll be fine. We'll be all right.
And he's like, so I'm going to fix your wound, but it's going to hurt. Mm-hmm. This is going to be painful at first. And the creature says, I have all the hurt in the world inside me already. You can't give me any more.
Right.
Which yeah, that's just whoa.
Yeah. But of course, they're having this nice touching scene, and he's like, so why did you give me life? What's up with that?
Yeah, because at this, it's like Victor has to tell him, because at first Victor's like, do you remember?
Yeah.
What are your first memories? And the creature's like, I don't remember my early day, and he's like, well,
I made you.
I created you. I gave you life, and that's when the creature is angry. He's like, what? Why you gave me these hands that have hurt so many people, and this face that scares people away from me.
You could have done a better job, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Why did you do that? You have put me into the world and left me to suffer. Yeah. But then he kind of realizes, wait, if you made me,
you could make someone for me.
Yes. Yeah. You can make another one like me who will love me and, who won't see what's wrong with me and be afraid.
Makes sense, I guess, to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah, and Victor's like, I can't. It was wrong for me to have made you. I can't do that. And the creature's like, but you made me alone, and no one should have to be alone.
Right. I want someone like you have.
Yeah, and Victor still is resistant, and he's like, you can just kill me. I'm not gonna do it. It's not happening.
No, but of course the creature's like, no. I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill everyone around you until you're lonely like me.
Yeah. He's basically like, if you don't make my life more tolerable, right, then all the blood that I shed will be on your hands. Exactly. And I'm just going to go on a killing spree. I'm going to kill everybody I see until I'm stopped.
And you know what? Honestly, with this creature, that is a very reasonable request, I would say. Out of all of the other creatures we've dealt with, even the Robert De Niro version, it's like, no, I get it. Yeah, I'll make you. I would make this guy a companion. Sure, why not?
Yeah. And finally, Victor does, obviously that threat's a pretty intense threat, and Victor's like, okay, if I do this, what's gonna happen? Mm-hmm. And the creature's like, no one will ever see us again. We've obviously heard him say that in previous incarnations. We'll go out into the middle of nowhere, we'll exist on our own, we'll have our own sort of little secluded cabin in the woods, basically, and no humans will lay eyes on us ever again.
Yeah. And of course Frankenstein's like, listen, all right, as long as you stop the killing, just stop the killing, we'll do this. But just remember, I brought you into this world. I could take your ass out. Mom, I love you. No. For everyone who's heard that line.
Yeah. And so the creature kind of, continues his threats a little bit, and he's like, all right, I'm going to let you go. You do this for me, but I'm going to be watching you.
Yeah, if you cross me, I'm going to wreck your shit.
Yeah. And so, Victor's like, okay, and he leaves, and he starts to work on creating the bride. Mm-hmm. And, you get some scenes with him where he's like, he says, like, I can't make the same mistake twice with this one. Like, she can't have the super strength that he does.
Because it could pass on to their progeny. And it's like, I mean, look at that. If genetics were being considered, there's a 50-50 shot it's going through anyway,
Yeah, definitely. So then we have Elizabeth talking to Alphonse about William, and Alphonse is like, I have to go back to Geneva. Like, I can't be here anymore. Like, I miss William, and just this place has not done good things to our family. I have to go.
Yeah. He can't. By the way, it's his birthday, and she brought him a birthday cake. So it's the shittiest birthday he's ever had.
Yeah. And so I think Elizabeth's like, okay, we all have to leave now. So she goes to try to talk to Victor, and he won't even open the door. Yeah. They have a conversation like through the door, and
she's just like, I want to see you, and he's just like, nah, bye.
Yeah, he's like, I've got this experiment, I've got to finish it. Things can be better eventually, but right now this has to happen. Yeah. And she says a really good line where it's just, loneliness kills all love. Yeah. Which feels like, definitely a nice sort of like epitaph for this whole movie, and that like that's what's going on with the creature as well.
Yeah. So obviously their relationship's doing really well.
Yeah.
It's not on the rocks or anything.
So yeah, she walks away from there, and we cut away to some kids who are playing hide and go seek, and you've got a little girl wearing a blindfold.
Maria vibes. Strong.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yep. I thought the same thing. And so, she's wearing a blindfold, and the creature kind of walks up and sees her, and she like tags him, but like he obviously doesn't even really know what's going on. He's just like, here's somebody who can't see me, who could possibly be a friend. Yeah. But when she touches him, he kind of like starts to move away from her, and she starts to kind of pull the blindfold away, but he's gone.
He's like, I'm not dealing with this again.
Yeah. And then we go back to Victor, and Henry shows up, and he actually, goes in and talks to Victor. Victor actually lets him in as opposed to Elizabeth. And he's like, here, I got a letter for you from Elizabeth. And as he opens it, a ring falls out and hits the table.
Clink, clink.
And so, yeah, you know what? You don't even need to read the letter. The ring falling out tells you everything.
Hey, this says, Dear John, but my name's Victor.
Yeah, so he does read it, and basically she's like, I'm going back to Geneva. Like, I'm not waiting anymore. And so Victor is like, why did you tell me what was going on, Henry? And he's like, we've been trying to tell you. Like, this shouldn't come as a surprise.
Well, Liz has to stay here to take care of my dad. Gosh. Well, I got bad news for you, but your dad's gone yesterday.
Dad.
Sorry.
Yeah, you didn't even notice. Like, he's already left. Like, that's how checked out you are. Yeah, so Victor's like, okay, so he rushes over to Elizabeth and is like, if you just be patient a little bit longer, I promise I'll make everything right. Like, it's just a little longer. And she's like, you've used up all my patience. Well, like, I have none left for you.
I appreciate in that this one instance, he actually says, I cannot live without you.
And then her response is so good, because she just says, you already do. Yeah. Like, you have been living without me.
Ouch. By the way, we didn't talk about this at the garden scene earlier, but when she actually is like, hey, I love you, and he just goes, thanks. Like, straight up, thank you. Okay, ouch, fair enough. But that's the kind of guy, his mind is everywhere else except in the moment and where he needs to be.
Yeah. So then Victor goes back to his place where Henry still is, and kind of like fills Henry in on everything that's happened.
And here's another instance of Henry knowing more than he should. He basically sees the bride, and he's like, "You've made another monster?"
Yeah.
How did you know about the first one?
Yeah, and he's like, "Did you give the first one a soul? Can you give her a soul? Like, you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. Like, you're playing with forces way outside your control." Obviously, Henry's just like, "You need to stop. We need to not revive her. We need to go find the creature and stop him." Mm-hmm. And Victor's like, he could be watching us right now. You need to...
shut up.
You need to... Yeah, he's too strong. Like, we can't risk this.
Yeah.
So they do go forward with the revival scene, and again we get the same spark scene from before.
Love it. But this is different though, because she immediately wakes up.
Yeah, it's like the sparks are happening and she is just screaming in pain like the whole time. Yeah, she's just like twitching and screaming. Then she just, the spark stops, she stops, everything's quiet, and the creature comes in and is like, save her. Like, he realizes something's happening. She was awake and now she doesn't seem to be. And there's all this smoke that's sort of like clearing out.
Turns out Victor pulled a sneaky in that he revived her only to keep her dead. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he basically like OD'd her on electricity.
Yeah.
At the last minute, he realized like he couldn't do it, but he talks to the creature and he's like, "Forgive me, like please, like learn to forgive. Like I could not do this.
Well,
I know."
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, he's just like, I know, you wanted this, and I understand, but it couldn't be.
Well, the creature still has the mind of a child, so he's like, you broke a promise. You made a promise, and you broke that promise. And he's not going to let that go. Because the creature also made a promise.
Yeah, and he's going to keep
that promise no matter what. Exactly.
Yeah, he says, like, you will not be happy while I'm wretched. You will be alone like I'm alone. I will destroy all that you love. And then the line that we've heard many times before, I will be with you on your wedding night.
Yep, right from the book, baby. By the way, what a great threat.
Yeah, it's so ominous.
Right. It's like, all right, in your happiest moment, I'll be there. And I'll have, a weapon in hand ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, he is the weapon. He doesn't need anything.
Yeah. And we see that right away because we cut to Henry and Henry
writing.
And the creature ends up, he comes in, you don't actually see him kill Henry, but it's pretty clear that that's what happened because then
he just busts through the damn door. He just punches through and then just walks through the rest of it. So it's like, he's going to kill this guy.
Yeah, and then it's like he leaves and you see there's like a servant woman on the steps.
Maybe a landlady.
And he attacks her as well. Yeah, just an older lady that we've not seen before.
And he just drops her over the banister. He's like, all right, I'm just chucking you. You're done.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Victor is like rushing to try to get to Elizabeth, and he's like, okay, yes, go to Geneva. You were right. You need to get out of here. And she's like, wait, what's happening now? Something's changed. And he's like, Henry's dead. Something's going on. Like, there are things that I can't tell you right now, but like, you're not safe.
Right. And Liz is like, nah, I'm sticking with you. Wherever you are, I am.
Yeah. So they flee the town together, and they end up in some small town, and they decide to stop at an inn. And like, Victor's still nervous because he's like, the creature might be here. He may have followed us. Like, I don't know what he's capable of, but he's definitely dangerous. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth's like, we're out in the middle of nowhere. Everything's fine. Why don't we get married here in this quaint little inn? It'll be perfect.
Right. And I do love that this like boisterous, comical innkeeper is like, oh yeah, the hot springs have dried up. That's what we were known for, because this is part of an anime. And but the town's nice and quiet. You all can hang out here. Hey, are you you look like a nice little couple. Are you all married? Do you want to get married? Huh? My cousin, the mayor. Well, my cousin on my sister's side, or my cousin on my sister's mom's side, or my wife's side. Yeah, sister's side. Something. He goes deep.
Yeah. And so they get him over there and they do the ceremony and they're married. But then after they finish the wedding, he's like, all right, but so the last thing is you got to sign the big town book.
Right. This is a very weird hill to die on. It's like, no, you have to sign the book. We worship.
Yeah, they tell him like your wedding is not legal until you've signed this. So it seems strange, but basically they're like you, and they kind of like Victor's like I'll do it in the morning.
Yeah. And
they're like no, because you're not married then. Right. So like obviously you won't be staying the night in a room together because this is the 1800s. Yeah. So Victor's like, okay, fine.
Right.
And Elizabeth's like,
we're holding your nuptials hostage here.
Yeah. And Elizabeth's like, it's just across the street. It's fine. I'll go up to the room. You'll be back in a few minutes.
Yeah. Just lock the door though, Liz. Just lock the door, please.
Yeah. So then we get, he leaves. Elizabeth goes upstairs. She's sort of like getting ready for bed, for post-wedding bedtime. She's kind of like figuring out what she's going to wear and walking around the room and just kind of getting the atmosphere right. And we see the creature looking through the window watching her.
Yeah. Bad sign.
Yeah, yeah. And so we don't see what happens, but then we just get Victor arriving back at the room. And, it's like one of those things. It's like, honey, I'm home. And he's like talking to her and then sees...
the door's not locked, babe. I told you to lock the door.
And then he sees her on the floor, rushes over to her, but she's dead. Mm-hmm. And then, so he, obviously he knows what's happened, and he stands up and sees out the window, there's the creature in the street, looking up at him.
He's like, I did that, to a degree.
Yeah, so then, he rushes out into the street to chase after him. And then we get this sort of like elaborate sort of cat and mouse scene. And like you can tell, like the budget, you can tell here that like this set is very limited. They're making use of what they have, but it works pretty well. And it's like an elaborate sort of cat and mouse where they're kind of chasing after each other, hiding. Right. You know those scenes in like action movies where like they're hiding behind the pole, like yelling at each other, holding guns and stuff. It feels like that.
Yeah.
But
the monsters or the creatures like popping out every once in a while to give some snark to Frankenstein, and he kind of snarls at him and then ducks down. So it's like, if either of these guys come face to face, they're going to kill each other.
Yeah. But then before that could happen, Victor like slips and falls. Like it's like a curb or something.
It's kind of silly, but he like takes a step off a ledge, a very precarious ledge to begin with, and there's some rebar sticking out.
Yeah.
Well, he lands on that rebar.
Yeah, of course. If there's rebar sticking out, somebody's going to get impaled on it.
It's an unwritten rule.
Yeah. And so as soon as that happens, like everything changes. The creature's like, we had this thing going on, but like I didn't really want you to, so he rushes over.
Well,
he
it's
picks
more
him
like
up.
I didn't want you to die on accident.
Yeah. Yeah, and he says, like, you can't die. I can't live without you now. And so, like, there's obviously the echo of, like, Victor saying that earlier to Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. But then Victor, all the sort of, like, wind comes out of his sails, too. Like, he's just like, go into the mountains.
Live your life.
And, yeah, you can be free there.
But forgive people.
Yeah, and the creature's like, I can never be free. And Victor accepts responsibility for this and is like, this is all my fault. Like, I didn't teach you. I wasn't there for you. But you can't, you can learn to forgive, give up on revenge and move on with your life. And then the creature's like, Victor, forgive me. Like, I've done all these things to you. I need your forgiveness before I can forgive. And then he just says, I cry. And I don't know, there's something about that it feels really kind of, it's like childish to like say that, but it felt like, it just felt so right in that moment. And yeah, it was really heartbreaking.
And of course, he picks up Victor's body to start carrying him away. But as humans do, the guards start investigating what has happened. And they see this massive monster carrying the body of Victor Frankenstein. And in this moment, the monster, I think, resolves to either end it or cause them to end it. And puts Victor down, snarls at them, acts like he's going to charge them. They open fire. But this doesn't do it.
Yeah, it's like they hit him a couple times and nothing happens, and then like he kind of moves forward and they fire a bunch again. And yeah, like you said, this feels like the suicide by cop thing. Yeah. Like it doesn't. I don't think he was going to attack the police. I think he wanted this to happen.
Yeah. But of course, he's slowing down, so he's like, all right, I'm going to pick up Victor's body one more time and carry it off. Maybe we'll both die together. And of course, whenever he's going up the stairs, there's one more guard with a rifle that fires the final fatal shot.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, he falls dead with Victor in his arms and just says, forgive me. And it ends that way. So, like, yeah, it's like you said, this is the most tragic version of this we've seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, like in every instance, like the creature feels like he's mistreated unjustly, but in this case, it's like even more so. Like at no point did he maliciously, I guess Elizabeth, but yeah, it's just like everything just sort of like conspires against, and it's like Victor even wants good for the creature, but it just, like you said, it's just, they keep trying to help each other and they can't. It just, for whatever reason, things don't work out, and that felt more tragic, that it wasn't like a creator giving up on his creation. It was just...
He couldn't help him the way he wanted to. But
just the circumstances of the world kept them apart, and it just...
Here's the one thing I would have liked to seen this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate the tragedy. It's very poetic, very beautiful. I wonder what would have happened how I would have liked to see the movie where Victor goes through with creating the bride.
Yeah.
Maybe it ends badly where she rejects the monster and then we have Bride of Frankenstein all over again. But maybe something nice happens.
And of all the creatures, like, this one deserves something nice more than any.
Yep. Like, don't get me wrong. I appreciate the Karloff monster and I appreciate the De Niro monster, but they did go where the book goes, and they internalized the evil and decided to project it out. Whereas this one was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be a big soft, lovable person.
It definitely felt like the people making this loved the monster.
Yeah.
Like, they were trying to give us the pure, most good-hearted version of the monster we've seen.
Yeah.
Which makes, the ending all the more tragic.
Exactly.
So, yeah, they definitely succeeded at pulling our heartstrings on this one.
Yeah, well, we did not get a abrupt ending, unfortunately. We didn't get any science wheels, but we did get a pretty solid Frankenstein adaptation.
Absolutely. Is there anything else? Or does that cover it?
No, where can they find us, Anthony?
Well, so by the time this comes out, in addition to Twitter and Instagram and Gmail at the Frankencast
The
that
YouTubes.
we tell you often, you can also find us at Patreon.
We've got a Patreon.
I think it's ready. We're ready to launch.
All right.
So it should be patreon.com/thefrankencast.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already got a couple episodes ready. So the first episode should be there by now. We'll probably be talking about it on social media as well. So we'll give you like a little rundown of what to expect over there, so you can kind of make your decision about what you want. So like the lowest tier is $3 a month, and it will be 2 bonus episodes, which will just kind of be whatever we feel like talking about, just kind of Frankenstein related, maybe not Frankenstein related. We might do movie recommendations. In this particular instance, this month we have an episode that's called What's Frankenstein, sort of like a spiritual sequel to our Why Frankenstein episode, where we discuss like what counts as a Frankenstein movie. And we go down some very strange rabbit holes.
We do.
And it ends with the like biggest like laugh moment of any episode of this we've ever recorded. So
Hopefully you
don't
enjoy
want to
it.
miss that.
Yeah.
And then the other episode that'll be showing up later this month on that feed is us pitching what we would like to see from, like, since the Dark Universe thing kind of tanked, where we would like to see Frankenstein going. We kind of both pitch ideas for like a franchise.
Oh, that was
and that
so
was a
much
lot of fun.
So much fun. I could do that all day.
I think we ended up liking each other's better than our own by the end of it. So it worked out well.
Yeah.
And then, so the next tier up is like $5 a month, and you get 2 more beyond those 2. And here we're going to kind of try to do some like ongoing series. For right now, what we're going to be doing is like a book club where we go slowly through Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the book, and another thing where we go through the Munsters. We're going to kind of do like 2 episodes at a time, and kind of make it our way through that, which will kind of, lead into the upcoming Munster movie coming out. So that'll be kind of exciting to revisit the original before we get this new interpretation.
Right, the Rob Zombie.
Yes, yeah. Those will be coming over the course of the month. And so right now we're just going to start with those 2 tiers. If that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely, we'd love to have you on board. And we've got plans that we might like extend to some bigger tiers, assuming that the interest is there. Like, we don't want to start recording a bunch of long episodes and spending tons and tons of time if there's not really the interest.
Right. Because trust me, we can go down some weird rabbit holes, and we're planning on it if the interest is there.
Yeah. So if that sounds like something you would be curious about, like, definitely join, definitely tell your friends. We obviously are always saying, like, rate and review and share with your friends and stuff.
Gotta
but,
appease that
now more than
algorithm.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now more than ever, like, if you do that, it's going to have an impact on like where the show goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely do that, and we're excited to hopefully see some of you over there on Patreon.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for it. I hope everyone enjoys it, because I'm ready to do some wacky stuff.
Yeah, I really love the format we're doing in the main show, but it's going to be nice to have some opportunities to kind of diverge from that a little bit too.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I've got these weird scars on my skin, Anthony. I'm feeling a little patchy.
Yeah, so next week This is probably a lesser known movie. It's pretty recent. But it's one of my favorite of like recent adaptations. It's called Patchwork. It's very different. Like, it's not a traditional Frankenstein interpretation. It involves like sort of like a bride kind of character, like a female creature made from but I don't want to give anything away until we get into it next week, but it has a really, really interesting sort of hook to the story that I've never seen done before or since, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So that is actually on Tubi now. I just checked because it used to be on Shudder, and it looks like it's not anymore. But it is on Tubi, so I would recommend checking that one out beforehand because it's a lot of fun.
Yep, I'm ready to see it.
So join us next week for that.
Fair enough. And as always, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Freaking Cast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Freaking Cast, or send us a letter at thefreakingcast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.
I'll get that all. Fix it in
Yo. All right, I'm going to stop recording now.